All right, everyone, welcome back. And today we are going to start on the Intro to Fusion lesson 4. So last time we left off, we made this nice little array of squares using the rectangular pattern. So something I just want to make sure is we want to make sure that we are saving each individual file like this. Okay, so that way when I go to grade this, I can get a nice look into how well you were doing. I can also it's really easy for me to check this off, so just make sure that you are doing this. So today we are going to look at fillet, mirror, and offset and trim. I know in the last video I said we were going to get through all of this, but today this took a little long, so we're going to go on to fillet, mirror, offset, and trim. These are pretty simple, so it shouldn't be that bad. All right, so let's get started. We are going to make a 4" by 4" square with a chamfer on one corner and a fillet on another. And this is just a good little introduction to these tools. So I'm going to start a new file, and then I'm just going to get rid of my old one. And my first step is to create a 4" by 4" square. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go to start a new sketch. I'm going to pick any one of these planes. It doesn't really matter. And I'm going to make my rectangle tool, start at the origin here. And again, just to make the process easier rather than dimensioning later, I'm just going to press the number 4 and then tab and then press 4 again. And that'll automatically give me a 4" by 4" square. And I press OK. And then I'm going to add a fillet on one side and a chamfer on the other. Now, just to clarify, a chamfer is a hard cut and a fillet is a rounded edge. So under the Modify tab, I'm going to select my fillet tool, and you can choose where you want to fillet two different ways. You can either find a corner, you can find a point that'll auto-select two lines, or if you want to do it more manually, you can click on one line and then the other. The easiest way is just find the corner and then click. And you can also change the radius of this fillet here. I didn't specify a number, and that's intentional. You can just let's give it a 1" fillet on this side. And now we've got a rounded edge here. Okay. So now let's do a chamfer. Under the Modify section, we are going to do chamfer, and we're just going to stick with an equal distance chamfer because that's the easiest. And I'm going to select this corner. Again, you can either select both lines or you can select a corner. So I'm going to select this corner here, and you can drag it in and out to select how far you want that to cut. So I'm sticking with the measurement on the side. I'm just going to do 1" and then press OK. And that's a 4" by 4" square with a fillet on one side and a chamfer on the other. All right, so super easy. We'll finish sketch, and I'm going to save this, and I'm just going to call it fillet/chamfer. All right, and that's it for that one. Let's keep going. The mirror tool, enter any geometry across an axis. So this is pretty vague, but again, it's just practice using the mirror tool. But the way that the mirror tool works is it takes some geometry and reflects it across an axis. If you remember from geometry, a reflection is just taking any object, and imagine if there was a mirror there, it would just flip it right across to an equal point. So I'm going to start with a sketch. I'm going to pick a plane to start drawing on, and I'm just going to draw something random. I don't know. I'll use the spline tool because it's more fun. I'll make some random geometry here. This does not matter. You could make a circle. You could make a square. It doesn't really matter. But in order for mirror to work, it needs an axis to mirror around. So I have this geometry here, and I want to mirror it across a line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my line tool here, and I'm going to draw a line right there and finish my line. Also, the escape key is your best friend. If you want to get out of any of these tools, just hit escape a few times, and then you will deselect anything that you had up here. So now, if I want to create this object mirrored across this line, we're going to select the mirror tool up here on the top left. And it's going to ask us what our objects are and what our mirror line is. So we're selecting our object right now, and that's going to be this spline that I just drew. And the mirror line, we're going to tell the computer, all right, we're selecting a mirror line right now, and we're going to select the line that we just drew, and you'll see a little preview of it. So I'm going to press OK, and boom, we have now taken this geometry on the left-hand side of this mirror axis, and we have reflected it across this axis to make a perfect inverse of this shape. So I'm going to finish my sketch. I'm going to save, and I am going to call this mirror. Super easy, super easy. These ones aren't bad. All right, let's go back. Offset a 3" by 3" rectangle. I guess I should call that a square. That's kind of dumb that I said rectangle. I guess technically it is a type of rectangle, but anyway, offset a 3" by 3" square by 1". So the offset tool, what the offset tool does is it takes a geometry and the edges of it, it can expand it or contract it to scale. So I'm going to start a new sketch here on any plane, and I'm using my rectangle tool on the top left. I'm going to make it 3 by 3. And now you'll see I'm going to do the offset tool. So I think it's under, is it under modify? Yeah. So under the modify tab on top in the drop down, we're going to select the offset tool. And under sketch curves, the sketch curves we're selecting, if you hover over the square we just made, we're going to select that. And there are two different ways to do this. There's an arrow that should appear on your geometry. You can move this arrow in or out, and you'll see it's taking the proportions of that square we just made, and it's making it bigger or smaller. So I'm just going to offset it by 1". Like that. And now we've got a little square. So this tool is really useful if you have some complicated geometry and let's say you want to like hollow out the middle with like a through hole or something. You can use the offset tool to help you create the same geometry just in a different proportion. So we're going to finish our sketch, press save, and we're going to call that offset. Let's go back to our checklist. And the last one for our 2D sketching is going to be draw 3 intersecting circles and trim the inside pieces to create one empty shape. So what I mean by that is we're going to draw 3 circles, and then where the lines intersect, we're going to get rid of them, and we're going to be left with just a perimeter line that looks pretty funky. So I'm going to make a new design. I'm going to start a new sketch. And using the circle tool, I'm just going to click once, click to place, and I'm just going to make 3 circles that all intersect with one another, just like that. So I have 3 circles that are all touching one another. It's almost like a big Venn diagram with 3 circles. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim all of these interior lines so that way we're just left with the perimeter of all 3 circles. So inside the Modify tab, we're going to go to Trim. And then trim will take sections that are cut off from other pieces. And we're just trimming these lines away until we are left with just this outside perimeter. Now we've got some cool, funky shape. So if you're doing a lot of drawing where you have a lot of intersecting lines or a lot of intersecting geometry, the trim tool is really nice because it helps just get rid of those extra pieces and leave you with a nice solid body. So that's it. We'll press finish sketch. We'll save this and we will call this trim tool, or I guess just trim to keep with the consistency of all of our other naming techniques. And that's it. That will do it for our 2D sketching section. That concludes the 2D sketching. So I'll stop the video here before we continue on to solid modeling.